Our teams have been hard at work for years on something that is important to all of us, the future of the smartphone.
So I've had my iPhone X for almost 6 months now, and I wanted to make a quick video to let you know how it's been going. So far, the iPhone X has been really great. It's definitely the best iPhone I have used. I have had iPhones since it launched back in 2007, and I have never used a case, until the X. The all-glass and stainless steel design looks and feels fantastic, but I'm just too scared to use it every day without a case, and with the camera bumps seeming to get larger and larger, it's not great using it on a flat surface. I have noticed that along the exposed bottom edge there are a bunch of tiny scuffs and scratches, which is to be expected, so if I didn't have a case, I'm sure that would be the way all the way around the phone. The screen is the first OLED screen on an iPhone, which means deeper blacks and better contrast, and it's really nice. It's a great looking screen, but I thought that about past iPhones as well. At the top of the screen is the notch. The notch has received a lot of bad press since being introduced, but after using the iPhone X every day, it really has become unnoticeable. Yes, in some cases when you're watching a video in landscape, part of it could be cut off, but for me, in most cases, the notch is outside of the viewing area, unless I purposely zoom in. Battery life has been the same as every other iPhone I've used. I charge my phone every night. Normal use for me, I can make it all the way through the day without a charge, so it's fine. There's always room for improvement in this area, but until I can make it through 2 or 3 days without a charge, I don't think there's much to say on it. With the removal of the home button, Apple had to introduce a bunch of new gestures because so much was tied to that one button. As with the notch, I found I was able to quickly adjust to what's new. The main new gesture here is the swipe up to go home, which has worked without issue and really feels natural. I was a little worried that there could be some delay in the response, say if I open the wrong app, but I found it to be super reliable. On the bottom of the screen there's a little line which indicates the swipe up to go home gesture. I can see this being useful for many people, especially when using the phone in landscape. I do wish there was an option to turn this off though, because it does take up a good amount of space on the screen, and I didn't feel like I needed it anymore. There's also a new way to activate Siri, Apple Pay, turn the phone off, take a screenshot, activate reachability, activate multitasking, and get to Control Center. Some of the lesser used ones for me, like turning the phone off and taking a screenshot, I do find myself having to think about them before I do it, but I'm sure it will become more natural over time. Reachability, which makes it easier to reach everything at the top of the screen by shifting the whole interface down, is a little weird on the X. I use this a lot on my iPhone 7 Plus, and I still find a use for it on the X, but I haven't been able to get the hang of it completely. Sometimes I can get it right away, but most of the time I have to try it a couple times. It especially doesn't work very well with a case that completely surrounds the phone. Multitasking has been an okay adjustment for me. Instead of double-clicking the home button on the iPhone X, you have to do sort of a swipe up and pause, or a swipe up and to the right. One really useful feature is that you can swipe on the home indicator to quickly switch between apps. I find myself using this all the time. The only thing is, sometimes I'm not totally sure which app I'm going to switch to. Sometimes I find I'll activate this gesture when I was actually trying to activate multitasking. Finally, there's Control Center, which I think needs to be looked at again. It's now accessed with a swipe down from the top right corner. I find this to be a pretty inconvenient way to get there, especially when using the phone with one hand. You can use reachability to help, but overall it's not a reliable interaction for me. As with any smartphone, the camera gets a lot of focus. I think the camera on the iPhone X is an awesome phone camera. As with most modern smartphone cameras, it takes really great looking pictures. I really like portrait mode, which works best when you have tons of light, and new on the iPhone X is portrait mode for selfies. I'm not a big selfie taker, so for me it's fine, but if I zoom in on some of the selfie pictures I do take, you can see where it comes out a little weird. The video camera is really, really good. I'll link to one of my first YouTube videos, which I actually shot completely on my iPhone X, so you can let me know what you think. Overall, I think it's definitely a camera that the average person will be extremely happy with. One of the other main changes with the iPhone X and the removal of the home button is the removal of Touch ID and the introduction of Face ID. I found Face ID to be mostly great. Setup was really easy, and after that it mostly just works. It works with a hat on, sunglasses, and in the dark. I especially like using it with apps like 1Password, which frequently need to authenticate. I wish you could force retry Face ID though, maybe by tapping on the lock for times when it doesn't recognize right away, instead of having to click the lock button and then click it again to restart the process. There are times that I miss having a phone that I didn't feel needed a case, but I think that speaks to how premium the device is. The iPhone X is a great phone, and most of the things that I think could use improvement can be fixed with software updates, so I think it can only get better.